Welcome to episode 290 of the Whatnauts review show, where every week we pick a story and we talk about it. This could be a movie, a TV show, an anime, a comic book, an audio drama, all kinds of entertainment. We watch it, read it, or listen to it, and then we come back here and we talk about it. My name is Melissa Wilkinson, and I am joined, as always, by Kyle Springer.
Melissa, I couldn't wait, so I have to bring Mountain Dew Laguna Lemonade, their new Baja Blast flavor, onto the show. Normally something I would do over on the Captain's Log, but bought this a couple
days ago. Our podcast for soda
ago.
And other nonsense.
Yeah, right, yeah. So yeah, this is me. I have a Mountain Dew Baja Blast Laguna Lemonade.
This is me.
This is me.
Your mom asked you, Kyle, I need a new photo of you to show to like your aunt. She hasn't seen you in so long.
Picture of Mountain Dew.
So under Mountain Dew, there is Baja Blast. And now
Correct.
This is a subdivision of Baja Blast, the Laguna, a subsidiary of Baja Blast.
Correct. A shell company, if you will.
A seashell company.
I think last year and this year they started putting out like two other flavors of Baja Blast, like using that as the base Mountain Dew rather than I don't know. I'm not a Mountain Dew scientist. I don't know how this stuff works.
If only.
But this is a mango lemonade flavor.
Ooh,
so
that does sound good.
Yeah, they had another one that I already drank because it was only a tropical punch flavor. So I was like, they've kind of, I feel like they've already done that, or most of them are that. I don't know. But here we go. This is what I've been up to. Melissa, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Went to go see Monkey Man yesterday.
Yeah, so did I. Same movie.
I went out with my brothers. It was a great Wilkinson family time. All I'll say now, not to derail the podcast, is that I think I like a bathroom fight more than a kitchen fight. I'm learning that about myself as I watch more action movies.
Interesting. So you can add Mission Impossible Fallout to the
best
bathroom
of them.
fight scenes. Yeah.
Number one.
Yeah.
The part in Austin Powers where he dunks the guy in the toilet and Tom Arnold just thinks he's having a weird poop. Another good one.
Good stuff. Yeah, I went to go see Monkey Man as well. I liked it a lot. I thought it was fantastic. If you're a John Wick fan, this will absolutely be right up your alley. I also went to go see Late Night with the Devil earlier this week. I highly recommend that. That was a lot of fun too. I think stylistically, I loved it. I'm not a big horror person, though, so in that regard, wasn't really for me. I didn't think it was super scary. So take that as you will. I guess a guy who doesn't like horror stuff says it's not that bad. It means it's probably not super scary, but I enjoyed it. It was good.
Nice. I'm going to go see The First Omen later today, which I've heard is very gnarly.
Nice.
I'm just there because the girl from Servant is there.
Yeah, that one is a no for me.
Yes. I'm the only person I've known who has said yes to The First Omen.
Good stuff. Well, Melissa, what are we here to talk about this time?
This is the beginning of Apple April, a new thing we're doing. We'll see if we come back around to it next year. We've got 2 episodes we're doing on our weekly schedule in this April. We thought we'd like to spend more time with the Apple TV Plus program. So this week we are talking about Hello Tomorrow. This is a show that began last February 2023. It has had 1 season. I don't know if a second season is explicitly on the way or not.
It hasn't officially been canceled, but hasn't officially been renewed either.
Not sure how many TV shows for which that is the case in this post-strike kind of reshuffling zone. Don't know if that speaks normally or poorly for Hello Tomorrow.
Yeah. Who knows?
This is a show that I've not heard any other people talk about. Yeah. Not that I'm more of a film person than a TV person. I hear about a lot more films than I do shows. But the premise and the production design of this really intrigued me. And I was happy you were interested in going along on this ride.
Yeah, it was one I even recently did a let me just knock out all of the Apple Plus shows I kind of have on my list and watch all of those. And even then, this is one that I wasn't aware of. And so you showed me the trailer, and I was like, yeah, I think we should do this one. That one looks neat, looks interesting. And it has this 1950s style, but this retro futurism to it as well. They've not gone full Jetsons. They don't have the flying cars, but they do have
they have hovering cars.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. They're still on the ground, but they're not flying.
Right. 2 feet off.
Yeah.
They're the height of a car if you photoshopped out the wheels.
Right.
Which is exactly what they did. They're not in the air.
But the whole premise kind of revolves around this salesman trying to sell timeshares on the moon. And the whole thing seems to be a scam. And it doesn't really exist. And so he's kind of juggling how to keep everything together and keep everyone in line and not reveal the secret and stuff like that. And he just kind of seems to be digging himself further and further into a grave with all of this stuff. So yeah, I thought that was interesting too. So I was like, yeah, let's watch it. Now having watched it, I thought it was all right. I didn't think it was horrible, but I didn't think it was great. I think the show has a lot of potential that it kind of unfortunately didn't really capitalize on. It's there, but it's just maybe not enough of it. And I don't know if that is what the creators wanted, if this is kind of all they had, or if this is Apple kind of being well, we're not going to give you full hour-long episodes, so we're only going to do half an hour episodes, and we're only giving you 10 episodes rather than 12 or 13 or who knows, right? I feel like there were things kind of cut from the show here and there that was it feels like we were supposed to see a certain scene in between here, but we don't get that, or stuff like that. But I think the production design looks really, really good. I think it's also kind of goofy enough that there is always something on screen to be entertained with. So yeah, I don't think this is a bad show. I think it's perfectly acceptable. But I don't know if there was one thing that was oh man, this is the standout. This is it.
It's the concept and the way the show looks. You could find the bones of this show in other shows, but none of them have set it in a retro-futuristic world of hover briefcases that follow you around like loyal little robots. And you're like, briefcase, give me Form 95. And the briefcase spits out a little paper for you to grab. Nobody else has that. It's got a real novelty to it.
Yeah.
I like the cast. I like the performances.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I did really like that first episode this is a first episode reveal. We're not getting that deep into spoilers here, where our star is Billy Crudup, who looks like he belongs exactly in this world.
When you think of the 1950s cartoon advertiser guy, it's him. He looks spot on. Fantastic.
I don't know if you've ever seen the Disney movie Meet the Robinsons.
I probably had when I was super young.
No, this is one of the more recent ones from 10 or 15 years ago.
was thinking of Swiss Family Robinson. It was like, I
No,
know I've
no.
seen it, but it's been so long. But no, you're
No,
right.
Meet the Robinsons is a movie about a kid who goes into the future, and the boy from the future who like accidentally wraps him up into this time travel adventure. Billy Crudup looks exactly like a live action version of that cartoon future boy.
Yeah.
So you get two twists in episode 1. You learn that Billy Crudup has been telling these stories about his family that he has living up on the moon when he's trying to sell these moon timeshares. And then you learn that's not actually true. He has a family here on Earth who he abandoned like 20 years ago, and he never really got to know his son. And then his son comes to one of these sales meetings, and Billy Crudup chooses not to reveal that he is this boy's father, because the kid does not remember him. Remembers that he had a dad, but could not like look at the face and realize, wait a minute, that's him. I haven't seen him in 20 years, but that's him. Instead he chooses to take the kid under his wing as a future employee. Like, I'll hire you. I will be your boss, and I will never say I'm your father. Yeah. And then you get the reveal that the company is a sham, and that's the one that really intrigued me. So I'm like, if Billy Crudup, his character's name is Jack Billings. If Jack Billings is doing all of this, he's just a door-to-door salesman the same as anybody else is. Why is he putting so much work into running a scam that puts him no higher than anybody else? He is not rich off of this. He is not glamorous or prestigious off of this. What's the deal here? Yeah, it's interesting. I will take back one thing that I said earlier when I was like, there's not one thing that I think stands out. There is, and to me, it was the fact that this show is all about people and the nature of faith and belief without it ever really diving into religion or politics. Yeah. Like, it has this other metaphor of like, there's this, there's these houses up on the moon and they're just waiting there. And we know it's all a sham, but there's so many people that buy in and just have the faith, and they have these struggles of like, well, but the rocket exists, so maybe this, I don't know, maybe I'll change my mind here, and they have these just kind of incredible journeys in that play within that space that you would usually see a show about religion or politics or something like that. And the show manages to have all of that stuff without talking about politics or religion and stuff like that. I thought that was fascinating. Yeah, it's more about consumerism and buying into products, and how when you buy into a product, you're buying into the person who sold you a product. And how there's a bond there. You know, you see that these salespeople, some of them are really fighting for the people they are selling to. There's genuine connection there. Yeah. And the show winds up being about, is it better to give somebody a hard truth or a soft lie? And what the gray areas there. And is it right for you to fake it until you make it? Yeah. It is about things that I've not seen another show exactly be about. Absolutely, yeah. So I would recommend it. I think it's worth checking out to some extent. I just maybe temper expectations of like, oh, it's not going to be the next Mad Men or something like that. But if you watched Mad Men and you're like, why aren't there more rocket ships in this? Why can't I see any robots? Mad Men, not sci-fi enough. I want Moon Men. Indeed. Would you have any other kind of final thoughts that you want to add to our spoiler-free section here? Just to mention, the show is 10 episodes long. Episodes are about 30 minutes. This is something I also really liked about the Apple TV Plus show Servant. It's about the same length. I like that they've got really relatively heavy hitters in this time frame, in that length.
Yeah.
If you're somebody who only has a half hour's worth of time, but you're not as much of an explicit comedy person, you want a little bit more drama to it. I like that we have half-hour dramas or dramedies more easily available nowadays.
Yeah. Last but not least, I want to give a shout out to the people that created this show. So this was created by Amit Babala and Lucas Jansen. So not sure if they've done other stuff or if this is one of their first things or not, but that's who created the show. So with that, I say we take a quick break for some housekeeping, and then when we come back, we will dive a little bit more in depth and get into some spoilers here. So we will be right back. Thank you so much for checking out this podcast. We hope you're enjoying it. If you didn't know, we make multiple different shows here at the Whatnauts, and a lot of hard work goes into making them, so we would love it if you check them all out. But none of this is possible without your support. Head over to patreon.com/thewhatnauts, and you can get access to over 40 hours of exclusive content, including our Patreon first podcast, The Pilots Club, when you sign up at our $3 tier. Of course, there is a free version of the Pilots Club available, but episodes are exclusive to our Patreon for 2 years before they hit the free feeds. If you're interested in buying merch, we have shirts, hoodies, mugs, and more for sale over at thewhatnauts.com/store. Another great way to help us out is by subscribing and leaving a nice rating and review on your podcasting app of choice. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel for video versions of the show, trailer reactions, and live streams. And lastly, you can always find out more information about the shows we make on our website, thewhatnauts.com. All right, so we are back. Once again, a big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. We love you a lot. We thank you. It means a ton. Right here over on the review show, last episode, we got to cover Jordan Peele's Us, which was a blast. I had not seen that one before. So it was brand new to me. We got to chatting about that movie. Go check it out. Over on the Pilots Club, which is our Patreon exclusive show, we just put out our episode on Shogun. So if you are at the $3 tier or above, you can check out our conversation on that. I have been keeping up with that show. Still behind where everyone else is. I'm not the most up-to-date thing, but I've watched a few more of that one, and I am loving it. It is fantastic. For the free version of the Pilots Club, we just released our episode on the End Game, which I have not checked back in on that show to see if it got more than that one season, or who knows.
That's the gamble when we cover a new show on the Pilots Club.
Fun experiment, yeah. So go check out all that stuff from the Pilots Club. And then over on the Captain's Log, we had our Eat, Vision, and Snack episode. We came up with the theme of hot dogs. We normally do some kind of like taste test episode, or we buy all of these like Japanese Kit Kats and do all that stuff. And we said, no, let's make our own food. And so we said hot dogs. Make some kind of fancy hot dogs something.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a blast with all of that. You'll have to go see what we made, the fancy stuff that we made with our hot dogs there over on the Captain's Log. But yeah, that I think is about it right now for housekeeping. So I say we get into spoilers for Hello Tomorrow. All right. Yeah. I think we have to start with episode 1. We didn't really mention his wife in our
which is a great cold open. You're introduced. Well, I think the actual cold open is when he sells the guy at the diner. But as you're getting introduced to this retro-futuristic world, we never get a real location for this. The city is called Vistaville. Is it in the Midwest? Not sure. but you're going through this little suburban street and you see the hover cars and you see this show's got gadgets and gizmos aplenty. It's got who's
Dogs
it's and what's
big-
galore.
Yeah. Dogs being walked by a little robot walker.
Yeah.
Kids walking a robot dog.
Yeah.
Hover cars. And they have this one truck, and you're not sure exactly what the truck is exactly when it first shows it to you, but the front windshield and both the driver's side and passenger side windows are screens, and there's this like animated stork looking character inside. So my first thought was like, oh, they're delivering a baby. Like, I don't know what this is.
You forget that a stork can deliver other things that aren't children. This is the equivalent of the Amazon Prime truck. You figure out.
Which is, it like backs up into a driveway and spits out a package, and it's like, I'm delivering smiles. Have a great day. And it starts to pull out of the driveway as the woman is coming to pick up the package that it spit out. But the truck has to like immediately stop as I believe it was the robot dog, or maybe it was the real life dog, runs right in front of the truck. So it has to slam on the brakes, but then decides to back up to get further out of the way. And this is right as the woman is picking up this package. And so it just kind of runs her over and knocks her back into the garage. And she's unconscious, has a concussion, is in a coma. And it's just kind of this like, oh my God. But also, oh my God, this is kind of silly.
Right? And you think that's just scene setting, that maybe like this show, that's just an anonymous woman, and that's an example of both the promise and the danger of these modern products. And then you meet the son, and the son's like goes to this timeshare meeting, and he's like, my mom's in a coma. I'm just feeling really lost. I don't know what to do with my future. You learn that is our main character's ex-wife. Yeah.
When they both are visiting in the hospital and stuff.
Right,
you're just like, okay, they're all related, and he hasn't said anything yet. But yeah, then we meet the kid, and he's down on his luck because his mom is now in a coma. He has to take care of everything, pay the rent, pay all the grocery, pay all the medical bills, do all of that. And I don't know if they really ever said how old he was, but he's a young professional. I'd say
like maybe 22 or something.
Early to mid 20s. And he just doesn't know what to do with himself. And he hears about, this like sales conference timeshare on the moon thing. And he thinks like, what if I just escape? Like, what if I just run away? And so I liked this scene where Jack is giving this speech, and he recognizes, it's not certain that he recognizes his kid in the audience. Like, that hasn't necessarily been revealed to us yet, I don't think. But there's something about the atmosphere in this where he changes up his speech, and he's no longer reading off of the cards. And he kind of gives this speech about, well, you're all hopeless, right? So if you're hopeless, run away to the moon. Like, you might as well. You got nothing to live for here on Earth. And it's just this like dismal speech, and everyone is just like, I don't know, like this isn't what I came up here for. This guy's not good at his job. But his son is just the only one who is fully bought it. Yeah, I'm hopeless. Yeah, I can run away to the moon. That's me. Yeah. And then afterwards, he's just like, I was so it felt like you were speaking directly to me. Which I thought was fantastic. I was like, oh, that's funny. But yeah, then he gets both upgraded because he was the one true believer, but then also when Jack finally realizes and knows for sure, like, oh, this is my kid, the next day his application is rejected. Of like, I can't actually send you up to the moon where none of this stuff exists. And so without telling him that, he decides to make him an employee. Which is like, hey, now we can have father-son time and I can get to know you and I can show you the ropes.
Right. And he is so certain that his son would hate him if he just suddenly emerged back into his life after 20 years, especially with nothing to really show for it.
Right.
So this is why he decides to take Joey under his wing as an employee. His gambit is, I will be the world's best boss. I will dazzle this kid with how kind and supportive and generous I am. And then he will already be on my side when I find the right moment and I tell him I'm his dad.
Yeah, I'll be the father figure without him realizing that I am the father figure.
Literally.
Yeah. And I think that's an interesting play because to his other employees, he's acting strange. He's babying this kid. They're all just like, what is happening? They don't know that this is his kid.
Yeah, they're like, why does he get a company car? And there's other salesmen. I love the rivalry between the one-sided rivalry. When this kid comes onto the team and does really well, like the previous junior salesman, who is this adult man, is so jealous and is trying to outsell this like college-aged kid who does not give him a second thought. Yeah,
so let's introduce the other members of this organization here. So we have Hank Azaria, who plays Eddie, which Melissa, you should be familiar with him. Yeah, because he does a number of voices over in The Simpsons.
He's most of The Simpsons.
He's the comic book guy. Yeah.
He's the snarky cameraman from that Godzilla movie in the 90s that I inexplicably really liked when I was a kid.
Sure, yeah. Who I also had the Godzilla band-aids of when I was a kid. Did
they have band-aids of the human characters and not just Godzilla? Was there a little Hank Azaria band-aid?
It was. No, it was mostly Godzilla, and it was his eyeball or like the logo. It said Godzilla, right? Like he's too big to put on a Band-Aid, and it's not like the big giant Band-Aids that go over your entire elbow.
You're
it was just your regular sized,
Right, they're child sized. They can only put G on there.
Yeah. But then we have, I believe it's Hanifa Wood as Shirley Stedman, Allison Pill as Myrtle Mayburn,
who's a customer who they sell to, and then leads a revolt against them when she realizes, what do you mean I can't go to the moon tomorrow? I literally burned down the rest of my life to go to the moon.
Yeah. Nicholas Podney as Joey Shorter, and Deshaun Williams as Herb Porter.
Herb was my favorite. I don't think I've seen Deshaun Williams before, but his performance is very funny. He has these wide eyes. He looks really bemused all the time.
He was the character that I don't feel like I could put my finger on exactly. I feel like I knew who Eddie was.
Yes. Degenerate gambler Eddie, yes.
Right, even though I would say, generally speaking, the show did not give enough time to developing these characters. He was kind of enough of an archetype that I could be like, oh, yeah, he's the sports gambler guy. He's not great with money, but he's good in masculine social situations. He'll drink, he'll laugh, he's loud, he knows sports, he does this, right? And like he's that kind of guy.
Right. He's the Bill Tench of the group.
Right. I couldn't quite get my finger on her.
he's a unique type. He's
not quite the company man, but he only is because of his wife, who is like egging him on.
So he's a little childish in that you can tell he's kind of competitive. He wants the attention. He really wants to like do good and be teacher's pet, Jack's pet here in this little sales group. Yeah. And when you see him on the video phone to his wife, he's been painted as just immature enough that you're like, oh, is he talking to like a mother or a sister or something? You're almost surprised to learn that this is a married man. And the story with him and his wife is fascinating. He believes his wife is pregnant with twins. And that's why he's like trying so hard to sell. He's like, I've got, a growing family to support. And then it's revealed that his wife isn't pregnant. And she's like, I thought I was. I told you what I thought was the truth. And then when the doctor told me I wasn't, I thought, well, why can't we just make it the truth? So she like comes to see him. She's like, I thought we could make up for it. I thought we could just make the babies now. And it never would look like I lied to you. Because I didn't think I was lying to you. I told you what I believed.
Yeah.
And which is not a long arc. I think that whole, that reveal is like takes an episode or two. But it's an interesting addition to the show's painting of what is the truth. Not in this very sort of modern political way, but like, what does it mean to lie to somebody? What does it mean to believe? What is okay to tell a person?
Yeah.
When is a lie helpful and good and inspirational?
Which is what she thought she was doing, because they're about to have 2 kids on the way. They thought it was only 1, but it's 2, and that's more expensive. We need more money. So she's like egging him on to work harder, be the #1 salesman, like get that top spot. And so he's kind of the pushover in the relationship. And so he's just kind of like, oh, yep, yes, ma'am, I will work as hard as I can. And when he's like, I got #2, she's like upset at him. Like, no, you need to be #1. It's like, yeah. And that's the thing where it's like, when does this situation turn abusive? Because she is using that lie to inspire him to work harder, to be a better salesman. Like she's trying to
and to get the money for the baby, and to get the money for the babies that she does want to have.
Right.
Like they both wanted these children. She's like, whoops, false alarm. We just got to give it another try.
And then, it's like once we as the viewers are aware of this lie and they don't have kids, she's not pregnant. What is that where it becomes abusive? That can't be right exactly. Just because I know about it, I don't know. Like it is interesting, and it's what's happening in the entirety of the show. Because on the other hand, there is the scene where Herb and Eddie go to that one house and they think they're selling the wife, only to find out that that's the mistress. But Eddie is the only one that recognizes that that's the mistress right away. And Herb like still tries to like, well, you guys can just go there for a you can be there permanently. And Herb's sitting there like, or it can be temporary, like if you just want to get away and have a little secret thing.
Right. Eddie, who is has a relationship with Shirley, and Shirley has a husband back home. he is the equivalent to the mistress. He kind of sees things eye to eye with her, and he's selling the husband on you. This is where you can keep her. This is how you can keep things going with her. And then like they notice the photo of him with another woman in a wedding dress, and that's Allison Pill's character. And Herb goes back and sells her on this, and she believes it. Is he recognized? This might be a situation you want to escape from. This is the escape.
Yeah,
and
he's lying to you, and he sees that value in being truthful and honest, right? Of just like, hey, I know this is maybe not the most appropriate way to say this or to sell you on this, but I think it's better if you at least know. And then he's on the opposite end of that with his he's on the opposite end of that with his wife, who is like, hey, we're pregnant with twins. But
yeah,
then,
and he is telling her what he believes to be the truth. And when she partially misunderstands that she could go to the moon tomorrow, and they're like, oh no, we've got like scheduled quarterly launches to the moon. You wouldn't be able to go up there for this many weeks or months. And actually the next launch got delayed a little bit. And all of this is Jack's dealings, like constantly pushing things and delaying things and moving money around, like getting money from a customer and then using another customer's purchase to refund the first customer when they decide to cancel. She gets angry at this lie that she thinks everybody is telling when Herb had no idea it was a lie. It's this constant shuffling. It is a shell game of truth and lies, this whole show. But I like that it's so interpersonal. It's not about, like you said, like a politician lying to the country or something like that, or a priest lying to a whole congregation. They're not choosing to go this route of these bigger things with more societal implications. They're looking at it like person on person. What does it mean for a husband to lie to a wife or vice versa, or a boss to lie to his 5 employees?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But I really do like her trajectory, Myrtle Mayburn. Because yeah, she burns her old house down. It's kind of unclear if the husband is still inside. I just kind of assume he is, but
so what we see her do is they've got some sort of futuristic cooking machine where she takes like a big piece of meat and puts it in this thing that looks like a giant version of the Trouble Bubble from the board game. It's just under like a glass dome, and she plugs in the buttons. It's supposed to be like a super quick cooking machine, but she cranks it all the way up. The thing ignites, and she just walks out of there. And she tells everybody, like, I do not have a place to go back to. But you're right. We don't follow up on that and learn, like, did she literally murder her husband? Is that house literally burned down?
So I kind of take it as yes, she did, because of how, like, she has this kind of wonderful, like, wide-eyed smile that can have this, like, hint of crazy behind it, which is the kind of trajectory that she takes. She gets so angry with this lie that she's been told, with getting caught up in this non-existent customer service loop, which I know we've all been in a similar situation of like, I just want to return this product. God damn it.
Right. And it's endless in a dead loop purposefully. Like, she is not looking at a failure of bureaucracy like she thinks she is. This is something Jack designed on purpose for nobody to catch up to him.
Yeah. And so she ends up teaming up with, and I don't know this actor's name. What was his name's?
Matthew Maher, and the character's name is Lester Kostopoulos.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you guys might recognize him from Our Flag Means Death. He was also
in Air. He's the guy who actually designs the shoe in Air.
Yeah, I like him. I think he's a fantastic actor. But he plays this character that I guess you could say is a government agent, but he's this like pencil pushing, like, I'm only here because you failed to fill out a form properly.
Yeah.
We need to have the correct documents. He's very much a stickler for these, like, you need to have your 890C filled out correctly.
Whatever the opposite of a chaos agent is to be injected into the story, he is an organization agent. Literally.
Right. Yeah. He's also not the like secret agent, the like CIA and FBI kind of detective. He is just someone who's like, guys, I just need you to fill out this form here. But he ends up kind of being the antagonist, and it's him, and he ends up running into Myrtle, and they kind of team up, and he's kind of re-inspired by her hatred towards this company of like, well, I really only need to have them fill out a form and I can just kind of pester them. And I think he can like detain them and stuff like that, but I like, it's not quite clear of like, is this an arrest? Does the arrest hold? But she's so gung-ho on like, no, we need to get them. I'll help you. We'll nail their asses. He's just like, all right, I can get behind that. And I think they make a great team. I loved this aspect of this show. In fact, I like if this entire show was just them hunting down companies that do this, I think that would make an okay show. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was entertaining.
His character, he is obsessed with like the letter of the law. Everything has to be exact. Everything has to follow protocol. And he looks at himself as a legacy. He's like, I am the latest in a long line of civil servants. Every piece of paper around me is somebody's hard work from years past. I have a duty to carry on the record keeping. Like the truth, the exact truth, properly organized and filed means the world to him. And we are coming up against a situation where it's what is like the exact paperwork truth and what is the general spirit of the truth? Like, where does like the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law is what he's coming up against. And he also has this game in like the comedy sense of the word. This isn't something like him, the character, is doing. Like from a writer's perspective, the game of this character is he's always using malapropisms. Like he will say a word with like two of the syllables flipped, which he does in practically every sentence. I think it happens a little bit too often, but it is an interesting touch in a couple different ways. This is an actor who already has a bit of a speech impediment, and I'm like I kind of like that they didn't look at that like, oh, that's this character's quirk. Like you can have multiple things going on in your life besides being speech impediment guy. I mean, I know I don't have to be the one to tell you this. I don't know if that was something
I also have one.
You thought about, but he has this way of literally speaking and like flipping words around that nobody ever calls him on. Like he's not saying for a guy obsessed with the truth, he's never saying exactly the correct thing, but everyone still understands him. Nobody brings it up. Nobody tries to correct him on it or call him on it. Everybody gets what he's saying. Yeah. Like it's somebody upholding the truth, he isn't doing
experiment.
It exactly.
Yeah, it's an interesting experiment on like, well, how much of in this case, not an untruth, but like how much can be fudged, how much can be kind of moved around a little bit, and people still accept it or understand it or just kind of take it as normal, right? And in this show where they're trying to sell these scam timeshares, like how much of this will be the truth, which is something I thought about a lot for this show of like, okay, I, as a viewer, I know that these timeshares don't exist. How much will they exist by time this show is done?
Yeah.
Is
And what
kind of,
exactly
yeah.
is up there? We never see the moon. We don't know what's up there. And there's never anybody who's like, oh, I'm a miner on the moon. I'm a scientist. I'm a government official who works on the moon. What are you doing telling people about these timeshares? I've never seen those up there. Those aren't on our moon maps. Like the
Yeah.
moon, it must be some sort of a known quantity to the people within this world, but to us, the audience, we have no context for what the moon does and does not have.
Right. Yeah. And so yeah, like as this season progressed, he ends up meeting Jack ends up meeting an investor who can invest at scale, and he's hoping that with that money we can use that to actually build these things out, that these like first adopters that I've like been just by the skin of my teeth been saying like, oh, it's been delayed a month, it's been delayed another month, it's been delayed yet again. Like maybe we can actually build something for them and get them up there with this initial, like he is, like you said, just kind of shuffling things around as much as he can. And I'm wondering if the goal of this show is that he did all of these lies, all of this manipulation, all to by the end of the show have this fully functioning resort town that is Brightside, as he calls it. But
you learn,
I don't know.
The biggest hook for me after watching the first episode and deciding I really want to talk about this whole season on the show was, why is Jack doing this? Why is he running a scam that he does not seem to profit from? What does he gain from all of this? Is he somebody else's patsy? You learn that no, he isn't. There is an interesting midpoint where Shirley is catching on to Shirley, who's not in sales,
she was my
but is like
character.
I love Shirley.
She was awesome.
She's like the team's administrator, like secretary, like she keeps everything running while they are out ringing doorbells. And she, after I think like Myrtle is one of the instigators for this, how angry she is that she can't go to the moon right away. Shirley does start to pick up something's wrong. Like Jack keeps referring to their boss, like Mr. Jenkins. And she's like, I'm getting these letters from Mr. Jenkins that don't make sense. Jack, I think Mr. Jenkins is using you. Like she absolutely believes in Jack, but believes that there is a higher up that is using Jack as his patsy. And eventually he has to reveal to her, no, it's all me. Everything goes back to me. Part of the scam is that in this world, there was a sci-fi TV show called like Buck Manziel, Man on the Moon, where he's this like Buck
Space
Rogers
sheriff.
type of,
yeah.
Right. He's Sparks Nevada Marshall on Mars. And like that actor, supposedly, Jack is presenting it as this actor now actually lives on the moon. And here's a testimonial from him. And it's designed to look like he is getting a direct call from the moon from Buck Manziel, whereas this is a pre-recorded video with pauses in it that Jack just knows how to interact with.
Right,
like he's doing a pre-show at a theme park. And then you learn that Buck Manziel is not in the greatest mental state. He's got a touch of dementia, and he's like the next door neighbor to Jack's mom in a retirement home.
Yeah.
And his turtle is named Mr. Jenkins. So this is where Jack got everything. The little rock he's holding up to say, this is a moon rock. My boy picked this up for me from our lawn on the moon. That's just like a rock he took out of this terrarium where the turtle lives. You see, like, like the usual suspects, episode 1, you see where everything comes from. But it takes several episodes to get the why of everything. And you learn that Jack's father was an engineer and an architect. He dreamt of what Jack is selling Brightside to be. but he died during a failed rocket launch. And Jack spent years as a traveling salesman for Amazing Personal Products, which is like the company that makes the stork truck that gave his wife
Amazon
a coma.
equivalent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he was a loyal salesman there for like 20 years. And he's doing great, but his boss gets this, like a robot spits out a piece of paper, and his boss looks at the paper. He's like, the robot analyzed the numbers. You're doing good now, but the robot sees the numbers behind the numbers, and you're projected to not do so well in the future. So we're firing you now. And he's like, what do you mean? Why does the robot know me better than I do? The robot doesn't go out on these sales calls. The robot doesn't ring the doorbells and sit in these people's living rooms and sell them whatever it is you need me to sell them. And Jack does connect with these people and what he sees, what the goal of everything is, the point of the whole scheme. You learn that like he started this Brightside scheme after he was laid off from App, is that people need something to believe in, even if it isn't really there. That makes them feel happy, that makes them feel hopeful. And if I can give them that feeling, that would be good for them, it would be good for me, and it would buy me the time to put the thing into reality.
Yeah.
It is good for a person to dream. And if I can sell these dreams, eventually I can get to the point where the dream is a reality.
Yeah. I think this is a good place to mention that first guy that buys in, the guy that saves his life. Because after he gets fired, Jack does try to take his own life. And
by going to a like it's like a sink that has car wash parts in it where you stick your hands into these like foam rollers. He just leans over, feeds his tie into it.
Yeah.
He's just going to drown himself in the company's future sink in a really cool looking bathroom. I loved that set for like the 3 minutes we're in there. And this janitor saves his life. And then the janitor gets fired because he had to damage the sink in order to save Jack's life. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, this guy he's an interesting character because he does seem to be down on his luck. He also knows how serious the situation is. Like, dude, I just saved your life. But also, it sucks because I also just got fired. And so he's like finding the comedy in all of that. Like that very much is that character of like he can find something to laugh about in a terrible situation, which then also plays out with how he reacts to then buying into these timeshares that Jack eventually sells him on. It doesn't matter how many times it gets delayed. He is the quintessential true believer. Just like, Jack, I believe in you. Who cares if we need to wait 3 more months? They go so far as to go to the site that the rocket is supposed to launch on. And it is this like rundown launch site. There's nothing there.
Yes,
and he's just
it's a junkyard.
Yeah, he's just like, I maybe they're not. Did we get our date wrong? Like it's not like he knows this is the site. I am right on that. But he's always so bought in on. Well, Jack will save us, right? And I liked him. I liked that character, but man, I also just still felt so bad for him.
Yeah, him and his 6 children.
Yeah, he has his whole, like, he's then sold his whole family on, like, we're gonna live on the moon. This is gonna be great.
I love when this show's got a great pace and structure to it. Like, there's the shell game within the show itself that the characters are doing, but there's the shell game of the show itself and how all of the different pieces are moved around. I was pretty impressed by that. They really know how to arrange all of their story beats. There's a part where everybody's gone. Everybody's off doing some task, and Herb is the one person left at this motel where it seems like they like have an office that they run out of the conference room. And he's the one person there who knows nothing that's going on. Nobody has hinted to him that this whole thing is a sham. He's not up on that. He still believes the company line. He's the one person left when all of these people come to him like, no, why can't I go to the moon? Why is my launch delayed? This lady says everything's fake. And he's trying to fix everything, including for this janitor and his family. And I love that he learned all those kids' names. He's like, Jackie, Bobby, Baby D.
Jackie, Bobby, Baby D.
He knows them all. It's really sweet.
Yeah, that is him being the salesman, right? Because earlier
Perfect.
on in the show, I also did really like the scene where Jack is trying to teach his kid how to be a salesman. And he gets so excited. Like he tells him this idea of just get inside the door. Do whatever you need to do to get inside the door. Because once you're in, then you can start picking up on clues. You can look at pictures. You can smell the food that they were cooking. See what they were watching on TV. There's so many more ways to connect with those people once you get inside. And Jack just gets so excited that first time that he gets it in the door. And he's just like, yeah. But that is her being this salesman too. Like, let me learn all of these kids' names so that I can connect with them here. So I like details like that there. But I kind of want to jump to the end, the shenanigans that happen here at the end.
Yeah.
Because this is I thought this is kind of wild and is, I think, such an interesting place to leave the show off, especially if we don't know if we're gonna get a second season. It is, so I mentioned this one investor who wants to buy in at scale, but she and her other investor friends who might also buy in at scale, they have one condition. They want to see a launch. And so Jack manages to get a hold of a rocket. It's at this junkyard site. And yeah, they build this rocket up to look like, hey, this is for the Brightside community timeshare thing. This is your shuttle. And Jack's plan is honestly just kind of brilliant in what he's doing, but he's now surrounded by so much chaos and so many things that he has to juggle and plates that he has to spin that it's just kind of inevitable that something will go wrong, and something does. So Jack's plan is simply to get everyone on the rocket and then be like, oh, we don't have your life vest. We need to go back down to the station to fit everyone for these life vests. And while everyone is in the elevator going back off the rocket down to the thing, he will manually stop the elevator, trap them all in that. Meanwhile, the investors who are watching the rocket launch, they have no idea this is going on. So when the rocket launches without all the people, they think it's a successful rocket launch.
And then they can tell all those people, I'm so sorry, there was a technical error. The rocket was like timed to go off at a certain time.
Right.
We're so sorry you were trapped in the elevator. And the intention was just to trap them for like 10 minutes. And then I love how everything goes wrong. So Myrtle gets back on she's going to be part of this launch. And she absolutely believes it now.
Rocket.
Yes.
She's like, wait, maybe it's not fake if there's an actual rocket.
There.
Yeah.
Yes. And then she's talking to Lester, and Lester has this backstory where there's this framed portrait on the desk of his late dog. He had this beloved golden retriever who he was with for years and who he still misses very dearly. And when Myrtle wants to go up on the rocket, he tells her the story about, I always kept my dog on the leash. That was the law. I always, behaved and I followed the law, and it only takes one mistake. I let her off the leash once and a car got her. And Myrtle asks, why'd you let her off the leash? And he's like, I let her off the leash because I loved her, which is him saying, I believe this is illegal. I believe this is a problem. They've not filed the proper paperwork. You shouldn't go up there. They should not have any customers. But I love you and you believe in this, and I will let you go.
Yeah.
And then at the last minute, he decides to follow her up there. And he walks in when nobody has been expecting him. He sees that the elevator switch is set to stuck, and he
could hear like, hey, there's children down here. Help us.
Exactly. He said, not an agent of chaos, an agent of orderliness.
Yeah. Yeah, and so everyone gets back up on the rocket. They all just kind of rush in there. Even Herb and his wife, they have decided to go to Brightside to just kind of get away from everything. So everyone gets back on the rocket, and the rocket takes off. And that's kind of it. That's the end of the show. And there's no answer as to like what's up on the moon. Did they live? Did they explode?
We have no idea what is on the moon. Like I mentioned earlier, it has not been established for us, the audience, exactly what the moon has. If there's scientific bases or military bases or anything. We just know that it doesn't have Brightside, and we're not clear on whether or not it has like a launching pad to meet a rocket.
Yeah. we do know that the rocket they are on did come from the moon. So there is stuff up there. We know that much, but we don't know what. And Walt, the engineer, kind of at this junkyard who's overseeing the launch, he seems to be communicating with some other robot that does appear to be on the moon. We don't know exactly.
Though he has like a rocket. He's like a robot who is in the cockpit of the rocket to be like its pilot.
Oh, okay. I'm even wondering if these rockets don't go to the moon. They just kind of go up into space and then land somewhere else on Earth, and then surprise, you're all in Colorado, right?
Yes.
You're on the set of Star Wars. You see little
welcome to
Luke's
Cape Canaveral,
right?
Florida.
Right? Yeah. That might even be the case. Who knows? Yeah, it's just kind of an interesting place to leave off season 1, because there's no answers, and it's all speculation, and I feel like that's what a lot of the characters were thinking. Most of them, like, they're just kind of speculating. How real is this? Is this real? So our boss isn't real. Are there houses up there? What's going on?
Yeah, they could get up there and it's just a bunch of empty model homes, like an Arrested Development.
Or that one movie, Vivarium.
Yeah, there's a whole vivarium out there. Watch out.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, like I don't know. Like I really feel like despite some fascinating stuff, despite the production value, I don't think we get enough out of these characters. I wanted to spend so much more time with these characters and the thoughts happening in their head. To compare it to Mad Men, I think Mad Men spends the time kind of going off on these tangents that Don Draper goes off on. And Jack here in this show also kind of does this. He wants to go to a baseball game with his kid, and he wants to go bet on sports and all of this stuff. Yeah, Charlie has a husband at home that I don't think we ever really got to see. I don't think.
No, we never meet him. It's like a one-off line that Eddie has in the first episode.
And that they kind of want to run off together,
Yeah, and it's only in the final episode where she you just see her leaving a house, and she's like, "I told him I was leaving. He barely cared. He just asked me not to stand in front of the TV." Yeah, there is a lot of room to explore these characters.
Yeah, and I feel for a show that is kind of about the interpersonal relationships. Where do lies hurt? Where do they help? Where does the nature of faith come in? Can you put faith in a product, a salesman, in a relationship? Can like it really relies on these characters being as rich and as believable as they can be. And I don't think we get that enough. And then I think just the kind of whimsy of the show just kind of adds to the like, well, we're not getting real grounded stuff, because instead you're focusing on like, well, what if this character is like cowering behind a car as like the collection dude is after him, or now he has a robot hand or something, and he can't hold the cup, right?
That's one of the wildest moments of the series. Is Eddie is constantly on the run from all his sports bets gone wrong. Yeah. And this guy finally catches up to him and like grabs Eddie's hand and puts it in some sort of futuristic space age toaster and pulls it out. And he has no hand in his arm. It's just like, right. It reminds you of like that burned up corpse in the afterlife waiting room in Beetlejuice. It's like that same effect. He uses like a charcoal at the end of his wrist. And then the next time you see him, he has this big robot hand.
That's just like slightly too large, because it has to like it's a thing that fits over his actual hand.
Yes. Like it is a glove on Hank Azaria's real human hands. The thing is, I have to be honest. Big. Yes.
I do actually kind of like that. There is a thing, if you guys ever watch the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, Agent Phil Coulson, who you guys might remember from the earlier Marvel movies,
who could forget?
Did get he lost his hand too, and they gave him a robot hand, but it's all CGI, so it's the right size. It looks like neat, but like, since this is a physical object, a glove that has to fit over his arm, it's a practical effect rather than using CG. Like, I kind of like that it is or at least looks like that, right? It's made to look like it's just a little bit larger than life.
We've had a lot of characters with robot arms on this show. Billy Quizboy, Nina Sharp.
Yeah.
It's got to be more. We talked about the Winter Soldier once.
Yeah, we did. We haven't done any kind of Luke Skywalker, Star Wars stuff.
We should.
But yeah, who knows? Anyways, yeah, like I like that they do stuff like that, but I feel like you can get like I feel like sometimes they defaulted to the whimsy a little bit too much, and there was space for them to tell really emotional, affecting stories in here that I don't think it quite got a handle on, right? Especially with the with Jack and his kid and his wife being in a coma, just the way they're talking, like that could be a really emotionally affecting story, especially when she wakes up and she asks this question of like, we had some great years, didn't we? And they all kind of look at each other like, yeah, we had some great, but no one mentions that, like, hey, he'd been gone for 20 years. Like, did you ever notice that he's not in any of these pictures? Like,
yeah,
it's kind of odd.
Where left off at. Like, how is that family going to progress? Are they going to tell the sweet lie that he's always been there, or are they going to tell the hard truth that he left? And Joey never mentions that, like, if she had a boyfriend or something, there could have been maybe a man she was seeing who she didn't tell her son about, and then he comes back into the picture. You don't know.
Yeah.
I like that the domestic mystery. We don't just have, hey, are these people going to die on the moon? But we also have like just a husband, wife, son dynamic that needs to be salvaged.
Yeah. I think even Shirley, like I mentioned, she was my absolute favorite character. She feels like she is one of, if not the most competent of the group.
Absolutely.
Like, Jack is absolutely the best salesman of them, right? But he kind of leaves some of the details to other people, including Charlie. And I would love for somehow her to kind of like not lie and manipulate, but use her intelligence, use her skills and all of this to finagle her way to be Jack's boss. When she realizes that, hey, there's no one above you. Why can't I be that? Right? Like,
yeah.
Like she had like the same. I don't remember her character in Mad Men. God,
there's Peggy,
what's her name?
There's Joan.
Peggy, Thank you.
I've never seen Mad Men.
Well, I have. I should know the name.
I ought to know. John Hamm's from St. Louis, so I automatically like it at least that much.
Yeah. But yeah, Peggy. Her arc is kind of goes through some similar stuff where she is a typist. She's kind of looked over because she's a woman, and she eventually kind of works her way up and is like, no, I'm one of the more competent people here. I know how to do this business better than some of the partners on this here. So but yeah, we also just don't get enough of her character. We only see her at work, and it's just like she has the bright idea to do an advertisement, but then we also learn that like there was a form that didn't get filed, and that's the whole
forms.
There's just not enough. And it felt like in between episodes or in between scenes, it felt like I feel like there should be more in here. Like there's more to this, and it felt like it just kind of jumped around a bit.
Yeah, like we see Jack calling Shirley after he's let go at App, and it's not clear if she like works in the phone exchange for the company. It seems like she's just like an operator,
some kind of switchboard operator or something.
Yeah, and then somehow he gets there's a piece missing. And how did we get from that conversation to now she works for you as the administrator?
Yeah, there's time jumps like that, which I could see them reserving for flashbacks. But even in modern day stuff, like I'm not really sure how much time we've covered. Like, how long was this coma that was it 6 months? Is this a year and a half? I don't really know.
In like episode 2, they go to a baseball game, and I think also in the final episode, there's
they
thing
go to
where
another
Jack
baseball game.
Right. So at
is
least
this like start of the season, end of the season? Is this 2 seasons later?
It happened. Right. Exactly. It could be not just one 9-month baseball season. We don't know how long the Vistaville Volts have been playing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they
nothing to tell time by.
They also started out like, hey, we'll be moving from city to city.
Yeah.
But then they kind of stay still
which is
the
Jack's
town.
plan.
Yeah.
Like Jack decides that so that Joey can still work with him in sales and also go visit his mom at the hospital. Because when he first says, now we move on, Joey's like, oh no, I can't leave. I have to go and check on my mom.
Yeah.
Which I was kind of looking forward to, the traveling aspect of being a salesman, but I understand plot-wise why the characters chose to drop that element. It is fascinating how they all like live out of this one motel. It is a neat backdrop. I loved the set design in the show. Those motel rooms look so cool. I want to mention how the robots looked. They're like these sort of floating cans with these long arms, and they do all sorts of different jobs and spit different things out of their torsos.
Yeah, the robots design themselves are all kind of the same, but they're just painted differently.
And they have different tasks. Like there's a bartender robot who will pour you a drink out of his own middle. There's the whole run where Eddie thinks that milk is his good luck charm, and he has to order.
What was that? This is so ridiculous.
Another element of what is the nature of belief? If you believe in a good luck charm, even if you can't prove it's a good luck charm, is believing in it good enough? Is believing you will be lucky the most important part here?
But like, this is, I think, a prime example of, yes, wholeheartedly believe like what you just said. Like, that's why that was included. It's a funny bit. I don't think it's as funny as it could have been, but it's funnier in hindsight. But
it's like funny to see
they're
these
drinking so many milkshakes, and he gets hit in the gut and just vomits all of this milk. Like that should be hilarious. And I liked it too, but I think in the moment I was just like, oh, huh. And that was it.
I love that it's adult men drinking piles of vanilla milkshakes like they're like high school students out on a date. You see robots doing different tasks. There's an episode where they go to some fancy like Elks Club or whatever who's having a fall gala, and they're working the room talking to all these richer folks, and there's a robot who's like the MC, and the robot's wearing a little bow tie. Sometimes these robots wear clothes. They'll have like a little vest on or something, and I'm like, they're like real fabric clothes. I'm like, did the robot put the bow tie on itself? Did somebody put the bow tie on the robot? I love a robot wearing clothes.
Yeah. I think, and this will be one of the last things I say about the show. While I enjoyed the production value quite a lot, it looked fantastic. I think another big missed opportunity is these robots, especially with the nature of faith and belief. Here are not necessarily beings, but here are these things that have been programmed to do a specific thing from their conception, right? How does that play into their society? Like, they often kind of just ignore these robots. And I feel like there are things to say about that, of like, well, what about the one janitor that saved his life? What if his kid, like, oh, I was raised to believe that there were things on the moon my whole life. My dad always said that X, Y, and Z. But I don't know if I believe in that. I was programmed to think one way. I was brought up and raised to believe this one thing, but I don't know if I do. It has no meaning for me. And so, yeah, it felt like something that could have been explored. Or hopefully will be explored down the road. I don't think the robots really have like artificial intelligence, like that. They're not sentient, really.
No.
But still,
we're playing in a Jetsons space here, and Rosie was a character on the Jetsons. I'd love to see a Rosie equivalent.
Yeah, like a robot character that is not just like a suitcase that follows you, or like, welcome to the hotel. May we help you with your baggage?
I do love when Lester has to banish his robot suitcase, and it's the exact type of scene of when somebody's trying to get rid of a dog that you secretly love, but you need to the dog needs to believe that you don't love it so that it will run away to safety. And you're like, go on, get out of here.
Which is like you said, his whole thing was with the dog. That's what he needs to do. Just let the dog go.
This is a very smart show. We've had a very rich conversation here. I think like the show does feel kind of strangely small and limited in some regards. Like there are things missing. But what it does have, I do find impressive. The concept's great. The way it manages all its multiple storylines and binds them together, both logistically and thematically, is pretty sound. The production design, the look of the thing, the casting, everybody looks perfect in these roles. Not just that they are wonderful performers, but like they look visually like they are exactly supposed to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other kind of final thoughts that you were gonna say on Hello Tomorrow?
I liked it. I'd like to see a second season.
Yeah, hopefully. I think there's enough here for them to kind of pick up some pieces and do something with a season 2 to wrap everything up at least. But yeah, good stuff. Good stuff indeed. Okay, let me see here. I think it is time for us to check in on bingo. Let me pull up our bingo cards in a second here.
We have to add robot hand to our list of bingo tropes to put on next year's cards.
Robot hand, yeah. Okay, let me pull this up on screen here. There we are. Here's our bingo cards as of right now. I don't think either of us has a bingo yet, but we're getting close.
There's a lot of good stuff here. We have briefcase of cash. We have sassy grandparent. Jack's mom is always interfering, trying to get closer to Joey.
Do I have sassy grandparent? I don't remember. Yes, I do. Sassy grandparent. I have that one as well. No one who died for their art. No red string conspiracy board, though I would absolutely love to see one in this show, especially from Myrtle.
I can get stuck in a small town while traveling.
Oh, yeah.
I put it on there in the sort of like To Wong Fu, thanks for everything, Julie Newmar sense of the story. Like, oh man, we're on this nationwide road trip and our car broke down. We're stuck in this podunk little town until we get a new part. It's not that, but we're supposed to be traveling salesmen, and instead we just keep working out of this one hotel.
Oh man, we almost have cool stepdad. If
almost.
No mysterious scar, no time loop, change of interaction, no signature snack, no poison.
We have signature snack for the very limited time where Hank Azaria keeps drinking the milkshakes, which is only like 2 episodes.
I like that is more so a good luck charm rather than a signature snack. Like this guy always has milkshakes. He's not just a milkshake
guy for the sake of milkshakes.
Yeah.
I have local watering hole, but I think I can't have that and stuck in the small town. Like they keep going to the same place because they are stuck there. This isn't like we chose the Cheers bar out of love.
Yeah.
Do you think I can get detective makes the case personal? Does Lester give us enough of that?
Does he make the case personal?
He's not really a detective.
I would give it to you for Myrtle, to be honest. She's not a detective, but when she joins up with him, right, she is absolutely like, I am doing this because they personally wronged me. Yeah, I would give it to you for that.
We had a number of robots
for me.
Yeah, I don't know if any of the robots amount to Butler. They were doing various assistant type tasks, but There was like a
Yeah.
concierge robot, but there wasn't like a butler robot at anybody's private residence.
Yeah. At least that we got to see. Okay. Well, I think
Pretty good.
that's kind of about it for our bingo update here. So good stuff with that. Melissa, recommendations for people who enjoy this show. What else might they like?
Several.
Yeah.
I mentioned Arrested Development earlier. I didn't think about it until I mentioned it, but if you want an absolute mess of a family-based real estate disaster, you can watch Arrested Development. I also mentioned the Disney movie Meet the Robinsons. Let me double check. When did this come? 2007. Meet the Robinsons is a 2007 Disney animated film about this little boy who lives in sort of vague past times. Everything kind of looks mid-century, and he's an orphan. He loves to invent things. He's always making stuff, and he'll have a little interview with prospective parents, and he'll be like, I can't wait to show you what I made. And it'll backfire, and he won't get adopted. And he's like getting older. He's down on his luck, and he's sad, and he hangs out on the roof of the orphanage by himself. And then one day, like, a kid in some future spaceship is up there, and he like gets the kid to take him to the future, where that kid has got this big, boisterous, wacky family. And this little orphan boy is like, can I just stay here? And the other boy's like, no, you can't move with me to the future. You have to go back to where you were from. And there's time travel hijinks and shenanigans and twists. It's a very silly movie. Like, this is a weird one. This isn't just like cute and funny and kiddie. There's really bizarre stuff happening in Meet the Robinsons. It's a delight. I really do recommend you seek this one out if you have missed Meet the Robinsons. Speaking of Disney, watch some Disney ride-through videos for Carousel of Progress, which is an attraction where you just see the same animatronic family in different periods in human history, including one in the future. Like, they're in like the early 1900s, and they're like, can you believe a radio? Oh my! And then it's the 1950s, and they're like, a TV? Wow! And every time they're like, there's a great big beautiful tomorrow waiting ahead of us. And it just like, there's like 4 different cycles. It's the sort of eternal platonic family.
Yeah.
And it's a ride in that, like, you're in like a room, and the room, like, the robots, there's animatronics in front of you, but it's not like the stage moves from set to set. You move. It is fixed, and you move around it. So it's essentially a ride in that regard, but it's not like you're in a little vehicle doing dips and turns. You can look at an old Carousel of Progress, still there in Tomorrowland today. Horizons is a defunct Epcot ride. Is your cat snuck in there? What are you looking at?
No, I'm just looking at my books as I'm thinking about my recommendations. So please continue.
Smart. There's a defunct ride from the 80s that was in Epcot. Look into the whole history of Epcot and how it was originally planned as a future city. It would have been Walt Disney's Brightside there in Florida if he had his way and didn't die. Horizons was a ride, a more traditional ride where you would go through and see these animatronic scenes of what could the future be like? Maybe we do live on space. Maybe we can terraform the desert and have beautiful gardens in the desert. Maybe we live underwater. The horizon's always changing. It could be different. Horizon's a fascinating ride. If you want a con man story, you can watch the movie Catch Me If You Can.
That's a good one. Yep.
The Steven Spielberg film set in, I think, approximately the 50s or 60s, starring Leonardo DiCaprio in what I think was maybe the hinge role for him, where we went from teen heartthrob to serious adult actor. I'm not exactly sure, but I feel like this is the movie that was that transition point.
Yeah.
He plays, based on a real story, he plays this con man, con boy, you could say, who pretends to be a surgeon, pretends to be a pilot, pretends to be all of these incredibly dangerous things he should not be doing. And Tom Hanks is on the hunt after him. And they sort of develop this strange, almost father-son relationship where Leonardo DiCaprio will call Tom Hanks every Christmas and not really tell him where he is, but just sort of check in. So we could watch this for Christmas sometime if you like. Any story where a man is trying to uphold some retro-futuristic super science ideal to live up to his own father while he struggles with fatherhood and dealing with his own son. I gotta bring up my beloved Venture Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Robot Hand. Associate with Robot Hand. It's all there.
Speaking of, I'm in the middle of a rewatch of Venture Burrows. It's my partner's first time. We are in season 3 right now. So Barack has left. They're discovering life with hatred as their new bodyguard, all that stuff. 21 is mourning the loss of 24. Good stuff.
Very good stuff. There is a YouTube channel. The channel is named Pics and Portraits, Pics and Portraits. They have a project called Sleepcore. This is a long playlist of videos that are like 40 minutes to like an hour long that are just mundane media for you to put on and zone out and like fall asleep to. And each video has its own theme to it. And they have several videos that are old retrofuturism topics. Like,
that's cool.
Here is a display of the GE home of the future. Here is a video from it's like this animated presentation from when TV was new. And it's like the TV council is telling advertisers, have you heard of these new things called TV commercials? Put your product in them. They genuinely do very well across the nation. Everybody could buy Welch's grape juice. There's really neat stuff like that back there. And finally, there is a website I found called Lileks.com, Lileks.com. This is the personal blog of a journalist named James Lileks, who's been doing this for like 25 years. This is like back when people first started having their own websites and blogs. And there's a lot of different cultural ephemera on there. But there's a series on motel postcards. This guy collected all of these vintage motel postcards and arranged them by state. So you can go and go through the entire country, go to a state you've always wanted to go to or that you've loved vacationing to, or look at your home state. Yeah. All these vintage postcards. And on every page, there's the postcard, and this guy wrote a little bit of commentary about it. And it's fascinating and very funny.
Interesting.
I love exploring that website. I host bar trivia, and in the minute of downtime I have between when I ask the different questions, this is the site I'm often flipping through. It's a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite ways to spend spare time. Lileks.com.
Good stuff. Good stuff. My recommendations would include things like Mad Men that we've already mentioned, set kind of in the 1950s-ish. And I would also, if you're into more stories of here's a guy who's just trying to hold things together, I would even go Halt and Catch Fire.
Yes. Which is another period piece. It's set in the 80s and early 90s. It runs from the show takes a long span of time. I think its story covers 83 to 93. And it is about building products and selling them and trying to maintain a business and trying to, more importantly, maintain the connections with the people you do business with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one was a fantastic one. We've covered that show here on the review show. Other things I would say, I would even go as far as to say Community, the sitcom Community. That one's not so much about like a guy trying to keep things together, but
stars another great Shirley. Do you want Shirley-based entertainment?
Yeah, but in the sense that like this team of salesmen are kind of held together by a central figure. Community is a group of people at this community college, kind of held together by the central figure. They go on all sorts of different adventures. Sometimes the shenanigans they get into is kind of based around a lie or stuff like that. But they come to kind of be a family of misfits and even go as far as like defending the school from other local schools, helping to raise money for that school, so on and so forth. So I would recommend Community as well. We mentioned the Jetsons. That'd be an interesting one we could recommend. But even if you want more like retro futurism stuff, you could go anything from like the Rocketeer to Loki with all the stuff set in the TVA. So I think I would recommend those. Those would be my
lots of directions to go in. While you're there on Apple TV Plus, you could flick over to Servant. Not Servant. Watch Servant anyway, but I meant to say Severance.
Yeah.
For more retro futurism, more tales of people who live for their job, although in that case it's because you have an entirely job-based separate identity because your brain's been divided in half.
Yeah, absolutely go watch Severance. I actually thought about Severance when you get to see the like desk office space of the one dude who's always after them, because Severance has that like retro futurism in the office space that they are in.
It is a little bit more like
clean.
70s.
Yeah, it's more 70s style, but it's very clean. It's lit well. It's that like bright white, almost sci-fi look. But it like in the same way, I think I'd be interested in seeing a department like in Severance where it's the exact opposite, where it's just piled high with papers and it's just disorganized and everything's a mess and cramped and claustrophobic. Because that's what that one guy's desk looked like. It was just completely covered in everything. So yeah, go watch Severance too. But that's it for our recommendations. However, for our next episode, we are continuing Apple April. And we decided for our next one, we will be watching Slow Horses, the spy thriller show starring Gary Oldman. For you guys to check out. I know this is based on a couple books by Mick Herron. I believe the books are called Slough House, or that is
and in the show,
the books.
Slough House is this office for like rejected spies. If you're not good enough if you haven't done something bad enough to be fired, but nobody really wants you around, they send you to Slough House.
Yes.
And Slow Horses is a sort of bastardization nickname. It's like, oh, you're one of the slow horses. They send you to Slough House.
Yeah. According to Wikipedia, Slough House is an administrative purgatory for MI5 service rejects who have bungled their job but have not been sacked. Those consigned there are known as the Slow Horses. They are expected to endure dull paper-pushing tasks along with occasional mental abuse from their miserable boss, Jackson Lamb, played by Gary Oldman, who expects them to quit out of boredom or frustration. Life in Slough House is defined by drudgery. Yet the slow horses somehow get involved investigating schemes endangering Britain. So, yeah, I have actually seen the first 3 seasons of this. I know season 4 and 5 has already been greenlit. I don't think they've like started filming it yet, but it has at least been greenlit because season 3 I think came out early this year or late last year. It was like late 2023 or early 2024 is when season 3 came out. But for now, we are only watching season 1. There is a small chance that might change and we will do season 2, but probably not.
We're only committing to season 1. Kyle, yes. You can watch as much as you want. I will see. I'm in a very busy period in my life right now. I'm like, I'll watch season 2 if I have time. Can't guarantee ahead of time that I will.
Yeah, indeed. But these are short seasons. They are only 6 episodes long, but they are the full hour. So there is still plenty to dig into with even just a single season. So yeah, I have nothing but great things to say about this show. If you are into like the spy genre, this is absolutely one to check out. This is one of Apple's better TV shows. Something I haven't even really said on this episode yet is I think Apple TV kind of quietly has a lot of really good stuff on there.
Yes, I've really enjoyed everything I've turned on from there.
They don't necessarily market stuff as maybe they should, which is why some people will be like, well, the only good shows are Ted Lasso and Severance. Well, no, that's not true. But there are some absolute gems that are in there too. One other final shout out that I think we both would be remiss to not mention. We've also covered the After Party season 1 here on the review show, which is another Apple TV show. We enjoyed that one a lot. I do have to say, I think season 2 is better. But yeah, I really enjoyed that show a lot. If you are in for a good murder mystery, but also it being like a comedy and every episode is stylistically different, in the sense that each one is a different suspect's mind movie. It's their version of how things went down, and it might be a different genre or a different director. That's like it may have been a Wes Anderson movie, or it may have been a Steven Spielberg, or it may have been a spy thriller. Go check out the After Party. That one's a blast. But next episode, season 1 of Slow Horses. So be on the lookout for that, because I think it'll be a blast. So yeah. Good stuff. I think that also wraps us up for this episode of the podcast. So, Melissa, where can people find you on the interwebs?
I don't really post anywhere anymore, but I do still have existing accounts under the username Wilkywit, WILKYWIT. You're welcome to send me a message if you want to talk about robots wearing clothes.
There you go. Good stuff. You guys can find me at Yo Kyle Springer. And if you want to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are at the Whatnauts official on Threads. So please go like, share, and subscribe. That would help us out a ton. If you're watching this on YouTube, we got plenty more videos over there on that side of the screen. That would help us out a ton as well. But yeah, this has been number 290 of the Whatnauts review show. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.